So at the highest level, our enterprise solution supports customers as they design, market, sell, make, and deliver products. However, that make, it covers a whole variety of different business models. That make could include assemble to order, engineer to order, make to stock, make to order, configure to order, as well as fulfill and distribute to order. So although those business models have very different use cases, they still benefit from having one source of the truth to represent your products that can be consumed across the enterprise. Examples of micro verticals where we have a strong focus include those that you see on the screen right now, and also know that distribution covers all of them. Everybody here that's listed, all those markets have a distribution arm as well. So for the last 20 years, our solution has addressed tough customer challenges like flat or declining sales, increasing costs, and brand commoditization. Organizations were looking to improve those flat or declining sales as products were hard to sell. Maybe the reps weren't as productive as they could be, and new product introductions were slow. Costs were increasing, quoting and ordering errors were common and present, mostly due to manual activities and a lot of duplication of effort. And then brand commoditization resulted from having long lead times and cookie cutter products. So why is visual engagement then so critical now? 83% of the buyers pointed to product imagery as the most influential factor, and 50% of them had already identified specific solutions before they were reaching out or engaging with any selling channel. So you must ensure that your product gets the chance to be included as an option in an opportunity. Otherwise, you're going to be losing ops that you don't even know exist. Selection, configuration, pricing, quoting, they just can't be capabilities with an ERP or CRM for salespeople any longer, because just like you do, I'm sure, in the comfort of your own home, buyers, whether they're consumers or B2B buyers, they're doing their own research on their own, on the web, way before they engage with selling channels, and they're doing it, again, from the comfort of their own home, on any device, basically anytime and anywhere. So with all the information out there, plus the COVID pandemic on top of that, which really forced that remote selling and work from home model, more than ever, buyers want the ease, the simplicity, and that visual experience at their fingertips at a moment's notice. And so 75% of the first-time digital buyers over the last couple of years are going to continue with that method. So whether or not buyers can find your products or can't find your products and engage with them on your website could really determine your position in the market. And so companies that need to drive activity from interest generation all the way to fulfillment really should consider an enterprise solution that can most cost effectively increase their sales and differentiate their brand. So today's tough customer challenges include the ones that I just covered and an entire new set. Additional reasons for flat or declining sales are coming from a lack of visual representation or unknown opportunity losses. Increasing costs are driven by continued manual activities and duplication of effort. And in addition, there's been a big loss of domain knowledge within the industry. Over the last few years, as you know, tenured employees have retired earlier than expected, or employees have left altogether. So a lot of that tribal knowledge or domain knowledge has left with them. Brand commoditization can result from having little product differentiation or having no engaging digital content. So because visual engagement is so critical now, here are some of the things that are keeping your marketing leaders up at night. How can we improve the market awareness of our products and drive that engagement? How can we better support our prospects' remote research, that selection, the buying, and keep them engaged with us once we get them there? Right now, we don't have any idea how many opportunities that we're actually losing because we've been eliminated already. And once we have the interest in our products, how can we hang on to them and keep them from looking further? We have to improve the ability to really personalize or tailor products, before the buyer narrows down their options. So thinking back to the statistic that 75% of those new digital users are going to continue there. And what about our sales plays? Are we relying on outdated methods, or are there new methods that we should be considering? How can we help a prospect more quickly go through the research and selection right into buying versus maybe going through a much longer quoting process? So how can we shorten that? So, let's face it, face-to-face and voice-to-voice interactions just aren't how most buyer engagement happens these days. And your competitors know it. If they haven't already, they're working to provide very rich, engaging visual experiences for your prospects. Switching more to sales-specific related challenges, as I mentioned earlier, really gone are the days where prospects are willing to spend hours and hours of focused back and forth with selling channels. So, your sales leader knows that more personalized digital experiences are needed to avoid losing those unknown opportunities. Rich visual engagement provides interaction, improves research, selection, and buying processes, and not just for the buyer, but also for your sales team, right? It can significantly shorten the time and effort spent by sales resources by allowing prospects to kind of kick the tires, if you will, on their own time. We want prospects to buy more of the products we want to sell, those with better margins, better services. So how do we get the market or the buying to shift from some of our older products to our newer products? And how can I capture that tribal knowledge of the resources that are still with my organization, making it seem as if my best salesperson is on every opportunity? And there's too much friction going from the research part of the process to the quoting to those ordering steps. A lot of manual activity and duplication of effort. So how can I better ensure accuracy and speed? From a sales play perspective, taking a look at those methods and updating them, engaging in more of a modern way, the way that the prospect wants to be engaged with. And how can we more quickly get our new products to market, right? How can we speed that up? How can we get it at prospects' fingertips right away? So I know that when I interact with a product that I'm considering, I often spend more time on the product and consider related options and accessories the more I work with it. So your sales leaders are thinking, how can we make that happen and increase upselling and cross-selling activities? Some of the examples that we're going to cover later will touch on that. So if your marketing and sales departments aren't asking these questions today, they really should be, especially thinking about company ownership, right? The younger generations are moving into those ownership positions, and they do demand very, very different buying experiences. So now what? You know that you need to engage with buyers differently, but what does that mean? How do you do it? And where do you get started? So often we talk to customers about, starting with the end in mind, laying out those areas where you want to improve those touch points. And consider looking for a partner that can address all those tough customer challenges, the ones I covered earlier, the ones that are more current today, with a complete solution that supports the entire business process with the least amount of redundant work, which then leads to the lowest total cost of ownership. So when we think about that, we have to support not just that traditional complex pricing, estimating, and ordering processes on the back end. And it can't just be about, ordering and fulfillment and integration with ERP, CAD, and PLM systems. All right, it can't just be the typical quote to order processes through CRM as well. But also we have to support the market to quote processes, making your products available while prospects are researching online, and capturing that interest long before the quoting begins. So providing that engagement and being able to allow anonymous users to come and browse, learn about your products, work with them, personalize your products, and basically do that anytime, anywhere, and on any device. Then thinking about, okay, how can we take that anonymous engagement and, perhaps then we direct them to an e-commerce site with that same information, with the goal to convert that interest right into a lead or a quote or an order in the shortest time with the highest margin. So to be a true enterprise CPQ solution, you must support it all. Infor supports all of those processes with one source of the truth, one repository that maintains all that information and then serves it up to a variety of applications, right? So that can include, again, CRM, ERP, it can include quoting solutions, e-commerce solutions, and those websites. There are a lot of CPQ solutions out there, but when you look at vendors that can truly support manufacturers and distributions enterprise requirements, you're going to quickly get down to a short few. So I'm going to switch gears here a little bit. Depending on your industry, who your selling channels are, how they sell, who they sell to, and what information is important, the experience and the requirements can vastly differ, right? So that the beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? So for example, even though many furniture manufacturers sell through dealers, distributors, and showrooms, they often need to engage with the end user first and very early in that user's research process, or there isn't going to be any lead or quote or order for the distributor or the dealer to work with. So those manufacturers have to provide totally different experiences to their dealers than they do to the consumer, right? A furniture manufacturer provides, more of that B to C with that B2B flavor, where you look at someone who makes, for example, industrial transformers, they're very focused on a B2B model and, to contractors, engineers, and those types. So if you think about wanting to take that information and spread that out across those other applications, customers don't want to spend time, effort, or money to duplicate that data in multiple front office experiences. They also then don't want to duplicate it again in their back office order management systems, right? So I'm sure many of you might have different configurators for your products, and you might have one for your website, one that you serve your selling channels with, whether that's internal or external, and something completely different down in your back end order management. So the example use cases that I'm going to go through are going to show you the flexibility of our solution and how we support various types of users and how our solution can support the look and feel that your sales and marketing departments believe is necessary for you to differentiate your brand. And then I'm going to turn it back over to Colin, and he's going to show you some real live examples in real time. So this first example is pretty B2C focused, but it combines two capabilities. As you can see, there's real-time 3D capabilities that engages the user while they're researching and provides that visual confirmation. But we combine that with augmented reality, and here's a live QR code for you to try out. But augmented reality then drives even further engagement through the rendering of digital images and data. This example is also B2C focused, but it provides the consumer the ability to visually select the color of each piece of furniture within a scene. So notice the unique way the fabric color selections are represented. You might think, I don't have anything in common with furniture. But if you look closely, right, first you can see how they presented the selections once they were chosen, right, in a unique way. But if you look down into the details of the piece of furniture, you can see the very rich details of the fabric, the textures, the patterns, the sheens, and it can translate to industrial products because oftentimes you need to see things like transparency or visibility, or you want to see exactly how this particular edge or drip edge, for example, sits on that shed that I'm getting ready to build. But you can also tell that the contrast looks very, very different with the different color choices. Although this example could be B2B and B2C, serving really both the dealer and the consumer, It represents how using photorealistic images can support a dealer's need to provide a quote to a prospective customer, right? The dealer wants to very quickly go through and make product selections, right? They want to have representative images to make sure they're picking the selection the buyer wants. They might even be right in front of them. And they want to be able to generate a complete and accurate quote. They want then that complete and accurate quote to give them the confidence that that's going to translate into a complete and accurate order without any friction, any unnecessary calls or back and forth. So here's a B2B example where the buyer could perhaps be an engineer. They could be looking to confirm that under the covers, this machine has been configured to provide the capabilities that exactly match the business requirements. So later on in the session, Colin is going to show how the enclosure of a transformer can be virtually removed, which is going to allow that assembly within to be exploded for visual confirmation via the rendering of digital images and data. You'll also be able to see how it will facilitate the process of ordering replacement parts. This is another B2B example of how using photorealistic images can support a dealer's need to provide a quote to a prospective customer that doesn't look anything like the motorcycle example or any of the others. Right? It's just a different way to offer product selections within with the representative image, really a confirmation on what the buyer wants. So this may be able to line up with the branding that your marketing department has worked so hard to put together. So thinking about this, what if you're selling this to a farmer, for example, right? Or to a dealer who their whole goal is to make farmers feel better about how much money they're paying for this type of equipment, right? So the ability to drill down to the option level provides that. It also can engage the farmer to perhaps buy a more expensive accessory like air conditioning, or potentially then leading to bumping up to an even higher model with more options that costs more and has higher margins. So we included this example just to show you how unique and tailored the presentation of imagery, data, and information can be. This is an example of a luxury goods space. Again, completely different experience. There's not a lot of real complex selections going here, but at the same point, it's very clean, it's very neat, and it does look very luxurious. So it provides the experience that user might be looking for. This B2B experience provides an anonymous contractor or a distributor the ability to spec in a particular actuator that meets the needs of their project. So the inline real-time 3D assemblies provide that visual confirmation. They can be used in downstream processes. And in this particular case, the contractor, assuming that he has the right credentials, can take the next step and buy based on the experience provided by the manufacturer. So this is really important for industries where there's a spec-in process, where we have to provide confirmation and budgetary quotes, when in reality, the machine or piece of equipment that's going to be built is going to take a year. And it might take a while until we're really down to a true selling price, right? So that happens a lot of times. Think about other building products and just with buildings, right? If there's going to be 3 buildings on a campus, they generally don't start building all 3 buildings at one time, right? But somebody might be asked, for example, to spec in the commercial hollow metal doors and all of the security around them. So that being able to provide and offer an experience to a contractor where they can just go in anonymously and make sure that they can spec in this product is very, very appealing and important. This is another example of that visual selection generating a photorealistic image. And again, it looks totally different than any of the previous examples. The thing I like about this example is, look how it shows the end consumer exactly what the packaging will look like, right? The attention made to making the shading within the box realistic and visually appealing, as well as the use of real estate to avoid scrolling. So again, maybe in some of your equipment. Maybe you make HVAC equipment or something like that, and folks are always looking at, how is it that the louvers rest, and what's that shadowing? Am I getting the right dimensions and so forth? This B2B experience also provides an anonymous contractor or a distributor the ability to spec in a particular door that meets the needs of their project. In this particular case, we're providing inline real-time 2D drawings to provide that visual confirmation, and it can also be used in the downstream processes. In this particular case, a contractor could also log in, assuming they have the appropriate credentials, and create that, complete that buying process as well. And the big thing about this, and where B2B and B2C are coming together, is users, regardless of who they are, want all that information to travel with them. So think of how many times you even go to the doctor's office and you have to fill out a paper form with all of your demographics, but you already filled it out online prior to your appointment. And then when they're trying to do prescriptions and medications and so forth, you've already put that on, you've got to do it again. So in many cases, the things that we're experiencing on a personal level apply to customers who are trying to buy commercial products. So this particular contractor wants to very rapidly put in this information, get visual confirmation, and know, right, that this quote is 100% complete and accurate. They can provide it to their customer, and that it's going to translate into a complete and accurate order that they do not have to enter again, right? At manual entry, duplication of effort, it increases the chance for order errors and is slow. This type of B2C experience gives you an example of how you can use the screen real estate to provide all the available options together. So for example, retail consumer sites, or even in some cases, some industrial sites, scrolling can be a real distraction to the user. So this tactic is thought to increase upselling and cross-selling because everything that's needed is here in the screen. And when you click on one, you get a pop-up of that particular option. This B2B example supports an emergency equipment dealer's need to provide a quote to a municipality. So this dealer wants to very quickly make those option selections because there can be hundreds with this type of equipment. And so those representative images that you see on the right are used to help the user make those correct selections. And the dynamically generated 2D drawings provide that visual engagement and confirmation on top of the options that are already being selected. So here's just one more B2B example. It's much more of a simple and traditional example where we're just using product images for a dealer, for example, to provide a quote to a consumer, right? So remember though, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So you may look at this experience and think, that's not very compelling to me. But depending on who the user is that's using it, who that user might be with, this might be exactly what they're looking for, right? So having one source of the truth, though, again, one repository to maintain the information, serve it up to an application like this, focusing on unique buyer cases, and then integrate with a number of different applications that I covered earlier. So as you've seen, our enterprise solution has very powerful visualization capabilities with options to support selling, making, distributing experiences, and whether it's through internal resources, external resources, or anonymous users. So certainly have the capability to provide traditional static images for product viewing. We can provide those automated, dynamic, photorealistic, or rendered images, like you see with the chair, that empowers that buyer to further engage with your products. We also provide real-time 3D capabilities, and we engage with the user while they're researching and provide that very rich, engaging visual confirmation. Colin's going to show you some more about augmented reality and how that drives additional engagement by rendering the digital images and the data in that buyer's space. And then we wrap it up with dynamic 2D drawings or 3D CAD assemblies that you see with the door and the gearbox, which again can be used downstream in the manufacturing processes as well.